Hey, welcome to Web3 Weekly with your host, Blockstar Technology.
Let's go.
Hi, everyone. Hi, our Twitter Nation, Insta Nation, and all the social nations out there. Today's our 40th episode.
40.
Wow, 40 weeks. And so this all started because we want to bring value to the community, to the technical community, to anyone who's interested in learning about blockchain and Web3. And that's what we are carrying on. And today we decided to talk a little bit more about the technicality of the blockchain, the technical side. So this is about smart contracts. And today we have our in-house resident senior smart contract developer, Mohammed, joining us for our episode 40 to talk about different types of smart contracts on the EVM. On EVM. So on that note, so I have Charlie to my right, and Mr. Craig joining me as well. Maureen's missing today. But so we're going to talk a little bit about ERC smart contracts. I don't think we'll have, enough time to talk about it today, but we're going to touch base on some of the key smart contract standards, and then we'll have a separate episode to talk about, dive a little bit deep into each one of them. All right. On that note, Charlie, where should we start?
Well, where should we start? I would say we start with the first standard, ERC 20s.
All right.
It'd be a good place to start where it started.
That's it. Cool. So, with the ERC standard, ERC 20 standard. So what is ERC stands for? Let's talk about that first, right? So before the ERC comes EIP.
Which is an Ethereum improvement proposal.
Yep, Ethereum improvement proposal. And once the proposal gets approved, then it becomes the ERC. So what is ERC stands for, Mohammed?
Actually, before going through the ERCs, I should say, you're right. The EIPs are standing for proposals, but any EIPs are having different categories. Some of them are related to the core devs, so the core network of blockchain related to consensus algorithm or anything like this for core devs. The other is related to the networking, the way P2P networks are, having communication with each other, right? Different protocols or changing any type of these things. Or it could be an interface EIP, which is related to the client side and all the issues on the EVM, Ethereum virtual machine. And the fourth category would be the ERCs, which is related to the application layer, the highest layer available on the blockchain, and it's more related to smart contracts and also tokens, different types of packages, libraries that smart contract developers can use to evolve the whole network. And because it's like a live organism, right? So it's an open ecosystem, and it's open to everyone, but if we want to have a proper evolving ecosystem, we need standards. And these standards should be assessed by editors or anyone who is interested actually in assessing these things, and definitely needs the community feedback in it. And that's the process that when you propose, for example, even an application layer proposal, it should go through some, assessment and feedback stage before getting into, before approving as a standard. And most of these things, before going to the final stage and get the final approval, is going to be adopted by the most of developers in the network. So It doesn't need even the final stage. Before turning into ERC, most of these EIPs are used by smart contract developers.
All right. So I just want to cut you off there, Mohammed. So with when we say EVM, what is an EVM?
Yep. It stands for Ethereum Virtual Machine, and it's so any client or any node, any computer, anyone who wants to connect to this P2P network should connect to the network through an interface, which is or a virtual machine, which translates all of our logic in different, the human logics, even different code languages, into one uniform language, which is understandable by the whole network, including the miners, other EVMs, and everyone on the network. So this is an interface which translates everything into Ethereum language, which is understandable by every machine, let's say, on the network.
Cool. All right. So the Charlie mentioned ERC20 tokens. And my understanding, I don't know about yours, Craig, my understanding of ERC20 token is it's a token. It's just like that's Ethereum or that's SHIB or whatever that is.
Generally used as the base value of asset or value of a particular blockchain.
Yeah.
It's like the native. It's like the difference for the coin and a token.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be either either.
They can be both, but that's generally what they're used for.
Yep. And it's a smart contract that they're using the ERC20 standard that was one of the first where it's like, hey, you can easily make your own tokenized system and build your own Ethereum as such, not your own Ethereum, but build your own coin where people can transact and do whatever they want within that system. Seeing rise of ICOs and funding and all sorts of experiments, meme coins recently. We had some fun with there, Cozy. There was, a whole bunch of stuff. People trying to change. There was DAI from MakerDAO, which is a decentralized stable coin. There's a lot of interesting ones. There's rewards, Uniswap.
You can use quite a bit, right?
Uniswap had the decentralized exchange and then decided to reward users and then let users use that token in a DAO mechanism, which they can then vote on. And yeah.
So, Mohammed, what is it? If we talk about the technical side of the ERC20, why is it, I believe it's ERC20 because that's the 20th proposal that got approved. They got 19 before that, and the 20th is the one, and there is no tie to that except what the 20 is. But this token or this standard of the smart contract, why is it important? Or why is it special?
Yep. Actually, it's the most famous, the very well adopted the standard on the Ethereum network. Currently, 70% of all the smart contracts living on Ethereum are using some type of ERC20, which means that how powerful it is and how well adopted by the community. And the main reason is that when you're talking about ETH, it is a native token of the Ethereum network, okay? But when it comes to different applications, different communities that want to have their distributed applications and their own currency, then they should define their new coin, their tokens actually. And ERC20 is the best and actually the only standard for fungible tokens. Fungible tokens means that it's fungible because you can divide it, obviously, And there's no difference between tokens. So token number 1 is equal to token number 2, or it doesn't matter if you're having, for example, the notes in real world are fungible tokens. It doesn't matter if you're having one $10 note or two $5 notes. This is the same for example, USDT. If you're having 5 of them plus another 5 is equal to the person who holds 10 of them. There's no difference between them. You can easily exchange them. And it's used for voting, for example, rights, staking, medium of, exchange currencies, and too many use cases, actually. And then it was very, very required to get it standardized in some way. So if we, I don't know how much we want to get into it.
Yeah, I'll stop you if you get too deep into it. I'll pull you out.
Can I ask you a quick question? Yeah, just going back when you said that you're not sure what happened to the first 19. If there's an EIP,
Yes.
does it keep the same number when it becomes an ERC? So obviously it's not like the first 19 ERCs were something different. They might have been 19 proposals that weren't adopted.
And I think some of these, I believe, when with the new, Mohammed, or you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, some of these ERC standards or EIP standards, sometimes they rely on other EIP standards as well. And it's almost like iteration of those, ERC standards that gets through.
Yeah, it's like a popularity test with developers. For the developers are interested in it and work it.
Yeah, and also it brings like usability as a good use cases. I mean, that's a really good point that you brought up, Mohammed, about the fungibility side of things, right? I didn't really understand the meaning of fungible and non-fungible until I start using this NFTs. Actually, NFTs, not the tokens, because you trade and all that stuff, but you don't realize it's whatever that is, you use it. But you like non-fungible, like, what is it called? NFT for non-fungible, and it's like, other one is like fungible.
Just a token.
Yeah.
Well, generally it was just called because there was nothing else to compare it to at the time.
Exactly.
So it was just the token.
Just a token.
To differentiate it between a fungible and non-fungible.
And non-fungible. So, I would say, Mohammed, let's dive a little bit into the next 2 to 3 minutes. I'm happy for you to dive into the ERC20 token, because given it's such a base token that we use constantly every single day. Like,
part of the ecosystem.
Part of the ecosystem. Let's dive in.
Yep. So first I want to point out this very important thing, that there is a difference between a standard and a package in terms of developing when we were talking about these things. Standards, as it should be, there are some rules, specific rules, the bare minimum stuff that you need, like functions that you need in a smart contract to be, for example, ERC20 compliant, or these things are getting assessed and standardized and then confirmed by the community. But then there could be different packages out there in the market who are developing these. The way I'm thinking of these packages are like they are creating these building blocks. So ERC20 is kind of a wheel, is kind of a building block for us smart contract developers. In any type of distributed application, you definitely need to deal with ERC20s or ERC 721 if it's an NFT project. Then you don't need to be worried about, when you're using a reliable, secure package, it means that it's a specific code you're talking about. So it's a separate stuff from the standard. Standard says that, for example, for ERC20, you should have 5 basic functions in the smart contract. You can have other functionalities in the smart contract at the same time, but these 5 functions should be there to be ERC20 compliant or to be considered as an ERC20 smart contract. So first of all, it should have the total supply function, which returns at any time, and it's open to anyone in the network. It returns the total number of tokens in this smart contract, in this ERC20 smart contract.
So,
So it should have the,
is it something like saying, okay, there's ever, you can only have like, say, million tokens ever, or is it like infinite? Or so you can have infinite as well?
Yeah, so we can have infinite as well, but in most of the ERC20 tokens, if you want to be infinite, it would be a very large number. And then you should consider it relates to the tokenomics behind all of these economy behind this token. So there may be infinite tokens available, like Ethereum, that could be regenerated forever, but with some, banning, or it depends on, as I said, the tokenomics behind the whole application. But it could also have a limited number of tokens. But anyway, you as a user, developer, or a potential buyer of this token, you should know that the total number of this token available. So the total number should be declared at the time of smart contract minting or creation of these Ethereum network. So this is one function that should be there. The other one is a balance of for any. So what we are keeping in a ERC20 contract is kind of a mapping. It shows that, okay, this address has this amount of token for this specific contract. So if you know the address of the contract, and it's an ERC20 contract, that should be definitely a balance of function which returns the number of tokens any given account holds. So anytime you can query this one and find out how many tokens you or anyone else has. Then definitely the transfer function. So you as the owner should be able to send to another person, to another account. And the another important functionality which is highly used everywhere actually, is the allowance function. So you are allowing another account or a spender account to be able to spend this token on behalf of you. And there should be a limit on it. So let's say you are the owner and you are allowing this spender. And then this is the allowance between the spender and the owner. And then another function is the approve. So you determine the number of the tokens that you want to allow this spender to be able to spend on behalf of you. Let's say you are in an auction NFT platform, for example, and you want to buy something. All of these transactions are not taking place instantly. So people are coming into the platform, placing their bids, and then at the end of the auction or at any given time, one of these things should be picked by the platform. And then this, exchange should happen. These things are also happening in the decentralized exchange, for example. So you should authorize the platform to be able to transfer this amount of token on behalf of you. So, and that is why all of the ERC20 smart contracts should have this approve function, and definitely a transfer from function, which says that, okay, this is the sender, this is the recipient, and this is the amount. Then the transfer from function is very important because it could be used by any third party in the network. If they are approved as your spender, as a spender for your account, then they would be able to call this function and say, okay, I want to transfer from, for example, Charlie's account to Cozy's account, that amount of token. And then we do have logics inside of these functions, definitely validations first. First of all, are you a valid spender? Or are you allowed to do this transaction on behalf of Charlie on the network or not? and then Charlie does have this amount of token or not, and all of these validations takes place, and then these 5 or 6 functionalities should be there. Then, if these functionalities, according to the standard, according to the draft of the standard available on Ethereum website, if you follow these things, then your smart contract could have any shape, could have too many other, functionalities, but it's still ERC20 compliant, or it is actually considered as an ERC20 smart contract. So what we are doing in terms of packages, as I said, that people are using the packages or libraries, developers, or smart contract developers, it makes it easy because, for example, they are available secure packages that you can import in your code and then use it with peace of mind, because these 6 functionalities should be taken with you should be very careful when you're using these 6, because they're prone to any type of security problems and holes. Then you don't want to write a smart contract and start writing everything from the scratch and write even those building blocks. These building blocks should be provided to you by a very reliable, very well adopted package like OpenZeppelin in the community, for example. And then you can rely on this one because millions of times they're going to be used, in the network. And so that was the difference I wanted to point out between the packages we're using and the standard itself.
Got it. So the challenge that the Bitcoin solved is the digital, like the first digital currency, like true digital currency, right?
The double spend problem.
The double spend problem, and that's what so on Ethereum, that's the ERC20 token, right? That's the Ethereum itself.
Yeah.
Right. So the challenge was, how can they have a digital currency on a blockchain?
Well, I think the thing that Vitalik solved was creating a blockchain that was Turing complete, which Mohammed would know a lot more about that, which was enabled us to create on that blockchain where Bitcoin's not.
Where it's not.
Yeah.
It's I think something that a lot of people don't think about. They just think about you having X amount of an ERC20 token and being able to send some there or receive some. But as Mohammed was explaining, like, for example, if you went and made an offer of an NFT on one of the popular platforms that are out there, you're effectively signing a contract, which is what Mohammed was touching on, that says you agree to give X amount of this particular token, but only if it's accepted at the other end. It doesn't mean that transaction is instantaneous as well. So there's a whole heap of different sort of, I guess, a lot of nuances to the use cases, which is why they are a little more complex than people think.
Like, for instance, as Mohammed touched base on the approver, you can actually approve your tokens, your token A contract, to talk to another smart contract, for instance, your staking contract that's connected to NFTs. And when someone wants to claim that amount of rewards that you've built into the smart contract, that approver method gets called, and those tokens from contract A get transferred over. You have like 3 contracts talking in, and you start playing around and intertwining, and it's all from what
does that. So
standards. Plus, then you go into governance, where then you need governance functions within your smart contract for certain reasons.
But that's just like completely. That's not ERC20, isn't it? That's not part of the ERC20. Is it part of the ERC20 token as well, the governance token?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like another function
within the smart.
Yeah. It all depends. It all depends on the business plan for your application, and also the architecture of the architecture of the dApp. So you can use ERC20s as governance token as well. For example, whoever holds more, they are having more, authority or voting, using them as voting rights. So if you're having 100 of them, and I'm having 50 of them, you're having double, probability, or I don't know, for
more power.
It could be any type of more power over controlling the whole application or the whole community. It could be used like this way as well. Yeah.
So to bring a value to the ERC token, right? So ERC token is ERC20 token is just a token, right? It has no value. So how does an ERC20 token get a value? Where does that come from? Like, how does it get a value?
Simple supply and demand.
So what is the demand? How does the supply? Say, I got I create like a billion tokens, right?
Oh.
And how do I know what is the value of one token? What does it define? How do I create that?
Years ago, you would start an ICO and you would say, all right, this first initial amount will be, I'll give this to you for 10 cents, 10 cents a token, and you can buy it. And then the ICO runs out and they distribute all the tokens. And then they'd say, when we're releasing it at 20 cents, for instance.
Okay.
And then they'd be listed on exchanges and they would supply that and they would list that through the exchange centralized. But in recent years, now we've got decentralized exchanges. So now you create your own token value by putting, say, Ethereum and COSI token together. And when you're setting up that liquidity pool, you're determining the price. So if one COSI token and on the other side, you put one Ethereum, COSI token's valued at one Ethereum, and you own a billion of them, but people have got
and there's whole thing about market value and all that, right?
Yeah, it's again supply and demand. Am I going to buy a COSI token for 1 ETH? No.
Yeah.
Can I buy 10 trillion COSI tokens for 1 ETH? It's got some. I like the news you've been putting out. I like your story that you're telling. I believe in what you're going to build, and
so that way you got the market.
People put value in it. Like toilet paper during COVID. Yeah. There was no toilet paper, a little bit, but $10 a roll.
So that's where you get the value from. Is that someone put a value to it with Ethereum or Ethereum or USDC, whatever it's.
When they say there are equal sides in the liquidity pool, it's not necessarily equal numbers of token. It's equal value.
Equal value. So I might say like, I'll put like 10, say billion tokens. And then put $10, for example, 10 USDC, for example, and that derives the token of my single token.
That is correct.
And that's how I get a value. Otherwise, there's no value.
And then, depending on if let's just assume there's only the one liquidity pool.
Yes.
There's multiples, and it's working out averages and things like that.
Yes.
But then, obviously, as the number of people that buy the COSI token, lowers the number of COSIs, but increases the number Ethereum, then that offsets the balance of the token becomes more expensive.
Okay.
In that case, because it's always considered to have equal value.
Okay.
In the liquidity pool.
In the liquidity pool,
And if someone's to come in and sell 50% of the total supply in one go, compared to the people on the other side buying, because it's going to come option tax.
The opposite side.
The tax effect.
All right. Cool. Okay, so that's a bit of a thing about little details about ERC20 token. And actually, I just want to ask a question, Mohammed. You mentioned when you initially said like 5 important functions, but then at the later stage you said 6 functions.
6, yeah.
Can we just go through a list of the functions, please?
List of functions.
So first of that
for ERC20. First of all, total supply, balance of transfer, which the caller can transfer. Some amount. And allowance, approve, and transfer from. 6.
Okay, so 6 functions. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
No, thank you. All right. What is the next one you're going to dive into?
20s, it'll have to be 721s probably.
70. Probably. All right.
After 21.
So 109.
What happened during those years?
All righty. So after ERC20, really, what we heard was this word called NFT.
Yep.
We didn't know what that is. Like, NFT, and everyone talking about NFTs. And really people jump on it, and then the underlying the ERC is the 721. That's what it is. So earlier we spoke about the fungible tokens, and NFTs are non-fungible tokens, and that's the ERC 721. So, Mohammed, why is that ERC 721 is important? What were they trying to solve? What was it? The challenge is like it's digital asset, right? How can we prove the ownership of a digital asset? I believe that's how the 721 came about. How can you solve this? This digital, art, for example, the graphic. How do we know that truly someone owns it? Who the creator of this digital asset is, and who's the current owner is? So, and on that, please tell us why the 721 is important. What is the technical side of it, really? And then we can go to the use cases afterwards.
Yeah. So ERC 721, actually, it is a very, very important, because in this network, we want to represent different, physical assets. So physical assets in our real world, they could be something like money, fungible tokens, or they could be some, other types of assets like an artifact, or I don't know, real estate, a house, or even a person. So we should have a digital way to represent these types of assets in our network. So if we're talking about an artifact, if we're talking about house, it's a unique asset. It's not a fungible asset because you cannot divide it. Okay, so you cannot say that, okay, for example, one bedroom is like 10% of this house, the other bedroom is, you can talk about the sizes and all of this stuff, but when you're thinking of, the whole asset, it couldn't be divided. It's a one artifact, and it has its own value. Or, for example, for a statue, you cannot say that, okay, one hand values, I don't know, 1 million, the other hand's 2 million, or something like this. We should have a way to represent these assets in our smart contracts, in our blockchain network. And this is why ERC 721 was kind of introduced into this space. And first of all, people were thinking about only inbuilt, gaming assets, or I don't know, digital assets only. But then it turned out that any types of asset could be represented by ERC 721, but obviously it depends on the plans, the legislation, and too many other stuff that we're not going to talk about them here. But so this is the whole story about ERC 721. If you're having a smart contract, ERC 721 is smart contract, and you're going to mint different tokens in it, and then token ID number 1 could be a house, token ID number 2 could be an artifact, okay, or any other physical asset. There's no limitations. There's no relevance even between these tokens. But you cannot, generally, this is not what happens, most of the time. Definitely there are collections and people are keeping the same, types of things in one collection, but there's no limitation on it. So, and you cannot evaluate these tokens based on their IDs. They're just IDs. Token number 1, token number 2, and token number 3, and so on and so forth. So you can also, token number 1 is a house in a very expensive suburb, let's say. Token number 2 could be any other house in any other suburbs, and you cannot even compare these two houses with each other. So that's the main reason we are having ERC 721, because each single token is a unique one, has its own value, and represents as a specific asset.
That's it. Yeah. So what that means in a real world, would that be like, say Mona Lisa, like the painting, right? If you take that one, and if we create, like, say, I don't know, use a word like billion of these. So token 1 to token billion, and they are all pretty much as individual tokens, and then what makes one special out of those billions could be the lower token number, for example.
Well, I
thought it's the same.
I think in this instance, like, if I could use another automotive analogy, and we're not getting into the next lot yet.
Yeah.
But you might have a make and model of car. There's going to be a whole heap of those.
Yeah.
Each one of them has an individual bin number.
Yes.
So when we talk about fungible and non-fungible, sure, your car might be exactly the same as my car, but do you want me getting in your car and driving it home just because it was the same?
Yeah.
You've just serviced yours had a full tank of gas.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yours has got way less kilometres on it, hasn't been doing surfing work at the car park. Though they're similar items, they still
have uniqueness
in their own way.
Just a lot better example.
And I'll take it back to actually our first conversation when we ever met, Cozzy.
That was those memories.
Yes, yeah. Good times. Like,
Nathan, can you do
Let's add that in. Sean, make it Sean. But it comes to like ERC20, you can divide it by 18 decimals. Normally people stick to 18, but you can mix that up if you want it. You can do 8, you can do whatever you want. But it comes into like a baseball card. Because he has a baseball card, I have the Pokemon Pikachu card. I shouldn't be able, if I start going, I'm going to swap you half of my Pikachu card for half of your baseball card. It would look a little bit funny on both our sides, and then you keep that going. And NFTs fix that. Non-fungible tokens are, no, I can only swap you my Pikachu card, my whole Pikachu card for your whole baseball card.
Or a number of ERC20 tokens is the case.
Or a number of ERC20 tokens. Yeah. So it's keeping that whole number.
Yeah.
That whole card in one piece, the whole Mona Lisa, the whole card.
Yeah.
I can't swap half of my Trident for your...
Well, you could. You're good on the standards, mate.
I was going to say it simply phrase.
All right. So, if we talk about the technical side of the ERC20,
20s or 720?
721. Sorry, ERC 721. What is it? When you look at the contract itself, what are the key differences between the ERC 20 versus ERC 721?
Yep. So these key differences, these technical key differences, are all related to the nature of these, nature of these two different tokens, because one of them is fungible, the other one is non-fungible. So if you're holding ERC20, the only thing that matters is how many tokens you're having. We don't care about the token ID. We do not have token IDs, actually. We are having the number, the amount. We're saying in 1,000 or 500. But so when we're talking about ERC20 token, the address of the token and the amount of token that you hold is important. So this is the address of the token, which identifies the this is specific to smart contract, and then that is the amount of tokens you're holding, like USDT. Okay, it has one specific address on blockchain network, and then you hold millions of them, Cozy. Yeah, and then, but when it comes to ERC 721, it's different. You should have the address of the contract and the exact token IDs that you keep, because different tokens are not equal to each other. Then, because of these differences, huge difference between fungible and non-fungible tokens, we're having like different functionalities in this standard. So 8 must-have functions should be there. One of them, the first one is the balance of the owner. So you can say that, okay, if I give this account to this function, how many token IDs of this smart contract it holds. Then owner of function, which tells the owner of function tells you that, okay, this is specific token ID. Who is the owner of this specific token ID? Token number 1 belongs to Charlie, 2 Cozy, 3 Craig, and yeah. So this is the second function. The third one is the approve one, which you should approve, and this technical difference is coming from the non-fungibility nature of these tokens. That when you want to approve someone to another address to transfer this token on behalf of you, you should also specify the token ID, because you may hold like 10 different token IDs of the same contract, but you may only approve this spender to spend token ID number 1 or only number 2. Or you can set approval for all and say that, okay, this spender is approved by me to spend all of my tokens in this smart contract. So it is another function, set approval for all, which you can set in or unset it. And this is what, this is what happens in all of the NFT marketplaces. So we had the same experience in Blockstars when we developed the Lloyd's NFT marketplace. And so because there's one seller and the buyer in this platform, and there's a marketplace contract there, okay? So most of the time, the seller wants to sell it's an NFT marketplace, NFT, and the buyer wants to pay the ERC20 token in exchange for this NFT. Then there's a platform, this NFT marketplace who, manages everything. As I said previously, like in an auction or even in an instance that we're doing the same. So we're saying that, okay, you approve, the buyer approves the platform for spending ERC20 token. The seller approves the platform for spending or changing the ownership for this ERC721 token. And then this is the marketplace contracts was in charge to do this, transactions and pay this amount of ERC20 token to the owner and then change the ownership to the buyer. So then
I can so Mohammed, just a quick question. So when you said the transfer function, I can pretty much with that function, I can just send the NFT to someone. I can send the NFT to you, basically, isn't it? It doesn't have to be you don't need a marketplace contract. I can say like, oh, I'm going to send you this to your wallet, and you're going to send me your ERC20 tokens.
Yeah, you first.
Yeah, you. And that's the key. Why you need that marketplace contract, so that it's almost like an escrow.
Yeah.
Right? It's an escrow. And that's the reason why. So you don't really need one, but it's best to have one so that it works as an escrow. So the transfer happens simultaneously. Otherwise, I can say like, oh, here you go, Craig. Here's my NFT and send me your SHIB.
All the talk of like blockchain and dApps and things disintermediating. Well, yes, it does, but it does it by replacing the intermediation with a smart contract. So you've still got the same thing in there. It's just that it's code that you can go and look at, verify, and know exactly what it's doing if you're as smart as
Mohammed, yeah.
Or you can stare at a blank plane and go, should be right.
Should be all right, yeah.
But yes, it's effectively code that's assuring that the transfer takes place as opposed to trusting.
Of course, of course. Alrighty, so just in the 721 for the ERC20, right? All this, I just want to touch a little bit about this word we use thing called gas, right? What is gas? Before we go into, but who earns the gas? Because I know I'm paying gas.
Damn oil companies.
Right? Exactly, right? And, so who get the gas? And why gas is charged? What's the meaning of even gas?
Yep. So gas is we don't have any central authority.
I'm looking at Mohammed, but I can't see Nathan. Yeah, and he's like chuckling, like, yeah, I know what he's thinking about the gas. The gas he's thinking.
The gas.
The gas, yeah.
One of the bills that you should pay monthly. The gas, yeah. But it's actually the fuel in our in the Ethereum blockchain network. So it's like what are we doing in a blockchain network? It's like we are some P2P, or like I said, different people who wants to run one ecosystem without any central authority who dictates the rules to them, or who has the control over their assets. Okay, so this is the main point. Then we do have the consensus algorithms, which is like we do have the miners who are creating the blocks, and then there's the majority. The majority of the network would agree on it, and then it would be chain to the rest of the history. It would be a fact in our history, in our ledger, let's say. And then so these kind of stuff, like evaluating whether this person is authorized to spend this type of money, this person owns this ERC 721 token or not, and all of these things, that all of the logic that we are talking in, human language should be translated into a code and run in the core network. Okay, and these things, and specifically the consensus algorithm over all of these things, needs computation power. So it means that people should, if you want to be part of a decentralized network, you should pay for it, because there's no big brother watching everyone and dictating the rules. So gas is the fuel for this network. If you want to process a very simple transaction, like one Ethereum from Charlie to Cozy, is a very simple transaction, then the gas amount that you should spend on it is very low, like 21K maybe. 21K, unit of gas is needed for this operation. It's regardless of the value of the Ethereum, or is all related to technical, the technical complexity of this action that you want to do, and write it on the ledger. So if it's a very simple one, like a simple transfer or changing ownership, it's 21K. It starts from 21K.
But would that be similar to like posting a letter? It's going to cost me, X amount for the stamp, regardless of whether that letter has 2 words written on it or whether it has 100 words written on it. Still going to cost the same, because it's the same amount of complexity to get the letter from one end to the other.
But yeah, Craig, I agree with it. But I should say that on Ethereum blockchain, because we're involved in, handling the logics in a smart contract, and then somehow it should be understood first, it should be validated, and it should be executed. Okay, so all of these things, and it depends on the complexity of your request. So if I want to write a whole new logic for my distributed application and create a smart contract on the blockchain, I should spend a lot of gas. Why?
Yes.
Because all of the nodes in this network should, first of all, validate it, authenticate my address, then validate all of the codes and make sure that there's no, technical problem in it. And then they can consensus over it and somehow write it in our ledger. But if it's only a simple transaction, it's easy. It's just, okay, Cozy sent 10 ETH to Right. That's it. Okay. So
I'm baby. So I guess what I was trying to get at was, if because he sends me 10 ETH and it costs a particular amount of gas, if Cozzy then was to send me 20 ETH, what's the difference?
that would be the same, because it's the logic, because the logic behind this transaction is the same. It doesn't matter if he wants to send you 1 million ETH, 1 ETH. It is because it falls into one category of transactions. Sending or transferring native token from one account to another account. That's the only thing that matters.
That was my point with sending a letter. It costs a particular
exactly.
regardless of how many words are on the letter. You could under 10 ETH, 20 ETH, doesn't really matter. It's going to be the same,
But within the Ethereum network, you've got, we've got 2 post offices on the Gold Coast, and everyone starts trying to send a letter at the same time. There's a bull market on sending letters.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to spend a bit. They're going to up their prices to keep handle. And if you want to get yours to be sent a bit quicker, those express posts cost a bit more.
Or rather than sending letters, it could be people in Ubers, and it's big time.
Yeah,
and the price gets jacked up.
Yeah. And that's how the gas, and that's where the gas fluctuates.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I think sorry to cut you off there, Mohammed. I think we're getting very close to that our mark. We only got through 2 standards.
Mohammed's coming back.
Yeah. So I think so I would like to even talk a little bit more about it, but I think let's keep it to this time. I think what we'll do is, in the next episode, we will pick up the 2 more standards.
Yeah.
I think because there's so much to talk about, and I think the more we discuss, anyone who's sitting on the fence and wondering what these ERC, what is smart contracts, what are these standards are, that's what we are discussing here. We're not discussing the deep technical knowledge here, but we're just touching base. We are diving a little bit deep, but not too deep. That's for people to understand, and we are really talking still very high level, not in the inner workings of the smart contracts or the execution layers or the security layers. So we're not talking about those layers. We are really talking about really the froth.
Yeah.
So before we finish the podcast for the day, anything that you want to say, Charlie?
Thank you for joining us today, Mohammed. It was a pleasure having you on.
It's not easy to find
me. Yeah. Thanks for having me. And also, I just want to say that I'm really excited to come here and share our experiences, because we've got these experiences here in Blockstars since 2 to 3 years ago. And then we touched all of these things, get our hands dirty on all of these codes and try them. And then I would be more than happy to share these experiences with the community, to use them, what I understand from, designing, architecturing, or, developing smart contracts with our fellows in the community, and then have their feedbacks. That would be awesome also. We can also answer some of the questions if there's any, or think of new questions regarding these fungible, non-fungible, or any type of, ERCs. Anything related to Ethereum and blockchain. More than happy to be with you, legends. Thanks for having me.
Mentioning that, if you want to come by, meet us in person, we'll be at the Island Surface Paradise, 4th of July, 6 p.m. So, Duke's Parlour. And, come along. We've got Decentralization Day.
That's right.
For this month.
Yep. And so what I'm really interested in talking for one of the podcasts is the diamond contracts, the proxy contract.
Oh, that's
we are bringing 2 of our team members to really have a talk about that diamond contract, because I think that's just really cool.
There's a few sides to that one. That's how they got the name.
Yeah. Cool. All right. On that note, anything else from your side?
Again, thank you, Mo. I don't get to see you enough nowadays, but really great. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, Mohammed, before we finish, any wise words that you would want to say to the, Web3 community, the Blockstars, community?
I think that there are lots of hypes around the Web3, but what I say to anyone, this is not advice, actually. What I say everyone in the community or other fellows is just to learn more and more and get deep into more, what is the philosophy behind having all of these, decentralized network, and then head in this way, we can help evolving the system. These ERCs are open to everyone and anyone, okay? So if you think that something is wrong, something should be like this, then think of a decentralized way for it, and then talk to a group of experts. Then you can even write another proposal for it. And so this blockchain community belongs to all of us. Web3 community belongs to all of us. Everyone is responsible for evolving. If you feel like there is a lack of something, or there's a problem in somewhere, please think of it and get more into it, and think of the philosophy of decentralization and speak up to the rest of the community. That's the only way we can evolve.
Awesome. On that note, I don't want to add anything. Wise words. On that note, guys, thank you so much for joining us for episode 40, and we'll catch you next week. Catch you later. See ya.
Yeah, catch you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
Subscribe.